All right, welcome everybody. This is session 4 of our stabilizing course, and it's November 10th, 2017. So today's the last call in this series, and we're going to be looking at self-love, how to stabilize yourself and support others in that process. So we're really going to look at that today. And interestingly enough, honestly, I think if we had had this conversation even maybe a week or two ago, I might have said something a little bit different as far as what I want to share with you today around self-love and what that stabilizing force can actually be. So this call, I think, is actually going to be fairly concise and to the point. And the way I want to look at self-love, or at least where I think, that we can really grasp self-love and start to dance with self-love, and also kind of begin to get some reflections back of maybe an internal process that we engage in so that we are, consciously intending that level of self-love. So I don't know, I did an interview with Sandy Sedgebear last night, and we were talking about all kinds of different things that were coming up, right now as far as some of the things that have been suppressed for a long time, and guilt and shame and all those kinds of things coming up to the surface. But one of the things that I've been watching in my own experience for probably about the last, definitely since the end of September, beginning of October, is I've been watching this dance between the masculine and feminine energy within me. And so last weekend, we had a small gathering of people who are in the integration mentorship group, and they were had been invited to do like a kind of an intimate gathering. And that whole gathering was really focused on self-love, and it was focused on the relationship of the masculine and feminine energies within us. Because I think one of the greatest polarities that keeps us from what I would consider the real or the true experience of self-love is the way the masculine and the feminine energy dance within us. And, we've all been patterned, we've all been conditioned, we've all been taught certain things about masculine energy, feminine energy, depending on what generation we come from. We have different ideas about that kind of energy. And that energy all gets imprinted within us, for 7 years of life, right? And so we spend the rest of our lives trying to come into some kind of coherence between the masculine and feminine energy within us. And by masculine and feminine energy, I mean, in this case, the feminine being the intuitive kind of awareness, the masculine part of us being the action that is taken around that intuitive awareness. And so, we might have some intuition that arises and says, it's time to do this, that, or the other thing, right? But the masculine aspect within us may not be in alignment with that timing. And so the action part of that may not be in alignment with that timing. And so it doesn't happen. It doesn't move. That doesn't make it wrong. It doesn't make the intuition wrong. It just means that it's not ready to move in the world as love. And what I mean by that is any time where the mind, the body, and the spirit are all in alignment at the same time, our expressions of self move forward so effortlessly that is an expression of love. Those energies move forward so effortlessly. It's as if grace comes in and just, has aligned all the stars, if you will, or whatever, and that energy just literally gets birthed into the world. And so one of the ways that we can really tell where our alignment is around our self-love is to do a little exercise where we ask ourselves, okay, the feminine energy within me, what does that feminine energy look like? What does it feel like? If I ask that feminine energy, how do you feel right now? What's going on for you right now? If I just started speaking and interacting and becoming familiar with that feminine energy within myself, if we all just became familiar with that within ourselves, it's like, what does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it sound like? What is it talking about? What is it interested in? And if we kind of got a sense of that, so for right now, what's interesting, if I was saying the same thing, about myself, I would say that, that feminine energy within me feels like it's becoming much more powerful. But as it feels more powerful, it feels uncomfortable, right, with that sense of empowerment or that sense of awareness, right? So that's just where the divine feminine is, or that feminine energy is within me at this moment, and yours may be wherever it is. And then if we then went to the masculine energy within us, so okay, same thing, the masculine energy within us, how does it feel? What texture is it? What color is it? What does it know? If we simply ask that masculine energy within us, how do you feel? Are you feeling stable or are you feeling unstable? Are you feeling alive and ready to roll, or are you feeling like something's holding you back or diminishing you? Whatever, we're just having conversations with the masculine and the feminine energy within us. And then if we take that masculine and feminine energy, I like to use spheres, obviously, but if we put the masculine energy and the feminine energy into one bubble, into one sphere, and just watch for a second. So you've got two energies that are, I would say, you have two energies that make up or have the potential to make up a unified field of consciousness. You have the two polarities or the two aspects of duality that ultimately, when they merge, they create unity. They create a oneness. They create a sense of self-love. Right? They create something brand new. They create a new level of awareness, a new level of consciousness. So if we go back to that sphere, and we've got that masculine and feminine energy there, just notice, does the masculine and feminine energy, are they as far apart from each other as they can possibly be? Are they, is that energy smeared up against, the inside of that sphere on one side and the other? And if that's the case, what does the feminine energy within you require from the masculine so that the feminine energy comes a little closer. And what does the masculine need from the feminine energy within you to come a little closer? And sometimes just asking the question, what's required for those two energies to start dancing a little closer? And again, I'm seeing this as an alignment of self-love. We're taking the ultimate polarity, if you will, and we're saying that polarity actually exists within us. And we can make up all kinds of stories and all kinds of reasons why that polarity exists within us. But if we're really to be stabilized, if we're really to be stable in what we would consider more of a unified field of consciousness or a self-love, then that dance is the dance that goes on within us. And we can look externally for clues as to how that dance is maybe not quite in balance. But once we get the clues, then we immediately benefit from going back internally and having that conversation with the masculine and feminine within us. Right? So we have that conversation, and the masculine and the feminine decide that they might get a little bit closer, or maybe they decide the masculine and feminine, one's kind of going, you're not hearing me, I'm not coming closer, or you're not giving me what I need, so I'm not coming closer, right? Again, this is an internal conversation. It has nothing to do with, relationships outside of you. It has nothing to do with any of that, except that a lot of these clues will play out in our external world. They're all clues to bring us back to some sense of self-love, right? So we hear the conversation, we notice what we notice, and then here's the interesting point. Then we choose. We choose to merge the masculine and feminine within us. And so how do we do that? Simply, we keep it as simple as possible. You could do it, we did it a couple different ways actually over the weekend. In some cases, people were seeing two spheres inside of a sphere, and we were just watching these two kind of bubbles kind of dance together until they merged into one. Some were seeing two colors inside that sphere, one that represented the masculine and one that represented the feminine. And dancing those colors together until they created something different. So, and a lot of times I can already hear the minds. The mind's going, yeah, it's not that easy to come into self-love. It's, I have all these reasons why that won't work. I couldn't possibly, the mind will say it can't possibly be stabilized and feel stable within myself simply because I go internal and play with colors floating in and out, or play with spheres, or do something else energetically, vibrationally. But again, I think one of the main ways that we finally realize that, one, we are love, and two, we we are our own stabilizing force, no matter what's going on in the external world. The only way that we really come to know that is we come to know that from the inside out. We can't possibly find our own self-love externally. We can't possibly find stabilization externally. That's all an inside job, right? So if we're internal and we're playing at a very subtle level, it's like it's so much easier to move something, to change something, to create something if we play in the subtle realms. Much easier to merge two colors that are dancing within our heart space and witness that, watch that. Much easier to do that than it is to try to take some external masculine and feminine aspects of ourselves and kind of physically merge them somehow, do something to get those together. You do that energetically, however, and all of a sudden your outer landscape starts showing you that inner stability, right? And what's more stabilizing than a new creation? What's more enlivening than a new creation? So we've got the masculine and the feminine dancing within us, and we put those two together, they finally merge. Say we're choosing, yellow and red representing the masculine and the feminine for whatever reason. When they finally go together, that's some sense of maybe orange or pink orange or some other color, right? So when those two aspects, the masculine and the feminine aspects of us, really merge, they create something brand new. And so one of the things that I think that so many people are noticing right now, feeling right now, and not actually being so comfortable with right now is the fact that these energies can merge. But when these energies merge, you will no longer be what you have been up to this point. You are going to be something different. So if self-love, and we're all in varying degrees of our own self-love, right? And that's an ongoing experience and expression for our whole lifetimes, from the moment we get here to the moment we leave. I know a lot of you have heard me say it's one opportunity after another to love beyond what we thought we could love before. But that loving beyond what we thought we could love before, it's an inside job, with the outside just showing us, kind of giving us hints, like I said. But one of the things that I think is happening, and it has been happening since about 2012, in the last quarter of every year, it's like everything that we have worked through, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, you name it, in the first three quarters of the year, that last quarter, it comes right down into the physical, comes right down into the how are we going to make this manifest? How is this, all of this purging that we've done, all of this movement that we've done mentally, emotionally, physically, how is that now going to be represented by some sense of self-love? What will that self-love manifest as in this moment? And so, again, this is why we go back internal and do that dance. So nice deep inhale and exhale, everybody. Yeah, deeper inhale and exhale. So it's also the reason why the closer we get to merging that masculine and feminine energy to the place where we create something different, we literally create ourselves anew, right? The reason that the closer we get to that point, the more our mental bodies, emotional bodies, and physical bodies go ballistic is because each one of those bodies knows that they will not exist in the form that they've existed to this point after this merger is complete. Once that masculine and feminine energy goes together, and that is a unified field, that is the ultimate vibrational frequency, you might say, of self-love. There's no battle. There's no battle between your intuition and your action. There's no battle between the more refined aspects of yourself and the denser aspects of yourself. There's no battle between the mental and the emotional, right? The past or the future. Everything is in the now. Everything is right here, right now. Everything is allowed. Everything is present. And when everything is allowed and everything is present, nothing exists. And by that I mean nothing that you have held to be true in your mental body, your emotional body, your physical body, it doesn't exist anymore. So you can imagine that the closer you get to self-love, the closer you get to this internal dance of the masculine and feminine merging, you can understand why the mental, emotional, and physical body go ballistic. So take that, and that's what I think a lot of times that's what we call a quote-unquote lack of stability. You know, it's, oh my gosh, my mental, my emotional, my physical body is just going haywire. And we call that a lack of stability. Well, if we shift that perception just a little bit, that crazy makingness, that chaos, and again, we see this represented in the outer landscape, that chaos is simply a representation that something is becoming new. Something is merging. Something is changing. The dynamics are altering. We're becoming, as a humanity, something that we have never been before. And we can assume that what we are becoming is terrible, or we can assume that what we are becoming is wonderful. It really doesn't matter. Whatever we believe, that's kind of how it'll manifest. But again, if we're relying on the external world to tell us what that is, we're always going to be unstable. We're always going to be in that mental, emotional, physical body chaos. But if we go internal and we start doing that dance between the masculine and feminine, you're going to notice that there's this love that grows from the inside out that is so powerful that it literally begins to transform your physical, mental, and emotional body. It literally, there's all kinds of technologies out there right now, right, that support our integration and things like that. But we are that technology, right? And it can be as simple as allowing that masculine and feminine to dance within us, having that be our priority, that be what we notice, that be where we place our attention. Continually adding energy to that, watching it, noticing. We're just intending that it merge, and then we're just watching how it merges, right? We're just watching how that takes place, noticing it, noticing what it gives birth to, noticing what it gives rise to, noticing what shows up in our outer landscape, because that's what we're paying attention to, right? And as we pay attention to that more and more and more, watch how that unified field completely regenerates your neurology. Watch how it completely regenerates your psychology. It'll regenerate even your biology to match that focal point, to match that unified field, to match that self-love. Right? Okay, kera matara kore tari ese kero kurimi tari so. So kera matara chokre kyokre matari sai. Semete kian. So we're all in that phase right now of owning this. We're all in that phase of bringing all of this awareness into self, witnessing, noticing, appreciating, loving. We are the stabilizing force, right? We are it. We stabilize by where we put our attention point. And if we ultimately put our attention point on the merge of this masculine and feminine energy within us, there is nothing that can prevent us from being born anew, from being born into a oneness. And once that oneness is there, you're stable. you're stable for eternity. That's the only thing you could be, right? So we'll just go back into that sphere for a second. Go back into that masculine and feminine energy. Go back into the dance for a second between the masculine and feminine within you. And wherever that masculine and feminine energy is starting to intertwine, starting to overlap, starting to allow a more of a unified energy or a unified field, we're going to make that bigger. We're going to make that a bigger reference point. So, here we go. Nice deep inhale and exhale. So again, going back to that dance between the masculine and feminine within you, to what is ultimately creating a unified field or self-love, love beyond time, beyond space, beyond dimension, beyond any sense of duality. So now that you've got that reference point, you can now put your attention point right there. You can put your attention point right there and invite the rest of the masculine and feminine aspects of you into that dance. You're just pulling it in tighter and tighter and tighter until there's no separation. And if that alone is your focal point or your meditation or your visualization between now and the end of 2017, I can almost guarantee that your 2018 is going to feel like a rebirth, like something very new. And that something very new is you. That something very new is the stabilized, unified, self-loved version of you. So let's keep it simple. And you can also imagine that if this is the focal point, you can imagine that expression of you in this world does more to create self-love in everybody that you come into connection with. They can't not reflect self-love because that's what you are being, right? They can't come into your world without either the desire to be that or the reflection of that. And so we create this nice perpetual expression of self-love simply because we're willing to be it ourselves. All right, beautiful. Nice deep inhale and exhale, everybody. All right, so let's, I'm just watching something right now before we open up for any conversation or any questions. Okay, let's just take a couple. I don't want to get too distracted from what we just did. I don't want to pull the energy out of that space too much, but if anybody has any question, comment, thought, concern, revelation, anything that they'd like to share, that would be all right. So I think that this last call, especially in this exercise, is probably one, just, go back to it as often as you like and, download it or however you want to have it available to you. But go back to it as often as you like because I think it's a really simple experience. But I think it can also have some pretty profound results. And with a fairly easy, easy focal point. So notice what you notice. Have fun with it. Thanks for sharing the last 4 weeks with me, and hope to see you other places and other spaces. So lots of love, everybody. Bye.